Hi there, and welcome to the Skylight Books Author Reading Series. If you'd like to learn more about us and our many upcoming author events, please visit skylightbooks.com, where you can browse our inventory, buy books, and join our Friends with Benefits Club. You can also follow us on Twitter, Tumblr, and Facebook. To speak to a real-live bookseller, please call 323-660-1175. Thanks for your support, and enjoy.
Welcome, Brian and Grace.
Hi, everybody. I really appreciate it. I have a loud voice, so I don't really care if this microphone is operational or not.
Oh. Is that silence?
Oh, no, it's not. No.
I didn't think it was going to be.
I'm going to talk slightly quieter then. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. I'm just going to get right into this. So, since I'm going to be reading from this, fortunately, I have such a developed feminine side because the narrator of this book is a young woman named Lita Galvan. And the part that I'm going to read from, so not especially relevant to what you're going to hear, but as a context for the book, it's written within the frame of an amends letter that she sends when she's in AA several years after the events of the novel take place.
Alcoholics Anonymous.
For those of you who are unfamiliar with those syllables.
Mm-hmm. Is that what my job is, just to fill in with little...
Just as much as you can.
Great. Especially in the middle of your reading, when it's completely inappropriate.
I mean, I'm not notorious for my clarity, at least according to the women I date.
Interesting, okay. We'll get into that.
So, for the part I'm about to read, she's someone who she has recently moved to Austin from New York to go to a graduate program in writing in Austin, Texas. She is a very bright and precocious person who probably, given the fact that it is written from the perspective of an AA letter, likes alcohol more than she should. There are two guys at the program named Harry and Jason, that she finds quite...
I just revealed exactly who this is written about. Hi, Mark.
That's why I have you here. Named Harry and Jason, that she finds kind of distasteful because they're kind of like belligerent, like asshole alpha males. Which is sort of out of character with the program that they're in. And then Mark is actually the fiance plus one that she dragged with her, who's like kind of a passive dude, doesn't have much happening in his own life, which is why he is like sort of her service animal in this context. And that's as much as you need to know. If anything's confusing, I'm sure Grace will...
I'll just call it out. Yeah. Just text me. No one has my number. It's fine. We'll figure it out.
Alrighty. A week or two into the term, there was a kickoff barbecue that was held at a small ranch house to the southwest of the city, amid an expanse of hills of sage and cedar and prickly pear. I drank mint juleps and basked in the praise of professors who were on the admissions committee and happily answered questions about my influences, taking care to admit contemporary fiction. Though I had misgivings about going back to school, I had always been good at it. It's a sort of reversion to childhood when corresponding to a simple set of expectation results in being treated with the importance of a thoroughbred. My own childhood consisted of praying nightly that the cocktail of alcohol and benzos would hit my mother only after the lit cigarette had extinguished in her hand and not on the couch, and carrying my asthma medication with me in my backpack so I didn't have to fear one of her friends going through my things and stealing it. I flourished in the structure and predictability of school. When I finally tired of Lisa Simpsoning, I went inside the ranch house to have a moment to myself and have a snoop, two of my favorite things. This really would be very different if it wasn't my dulcet tones. It was a woman reading, but I mean, you're going to use your theater of imagination. I was admiring the skulls and antlers and furs. Like my mother, I had an intense appreciation for the aesthetification of death. When I was joined by Harry and Jason, the disparity in their size and body type, so Harry's like short and yoked and Jason's tall and gangling, a fire hydrant next to a parking meter, calling to mind a Depression-era pair of tramps. In fact, I was not joined. I had been stalked. New females were objects of great interest at Hogwarts, so she never refers to this program by its name. She only calls it Hogwarts. And I had lost track at this point of the number of timid questions I'd been asked about my CV or favorite This American Life episode by circling males. This was great fun, the most I'd had since having too much to drink at the magazine's Christmas party last year. The pleasure of reminding yourself you are a sexual being without the risks of doing anything about it. These two were not so subtle in their approach. How old are you and how much do you weigh? Harry asked. Did you focus group that one at Wyden and Kennedy? I replied. No, I think I used it on the first woman I talked to after my divorce. I can't imagine why it didn't work out. She got tired of being the big spoon, said Jason. So Jason, I should point out, also, regardless of the climate or time of year, only wears long jeans and cowboy boots. It's not.
I have to point out the obvious right now.
This is a Mediterranean climate. In Central Texas, that's a different thing to do. Do you realize it's 10 million degrees out? I said. You may as well be wearing crock pots on your feet. Got to pay the cost to be the boss, he said. How old are you? I said. Did you get a reference letter from your pediatrician? This was met with an inevitable banality about receiving one from my mother. I should also point out her mother is dead. They were pleased with themselves, imaginary Norman Mailers and George Plimptons toasting their defiant political incorrectness. I mulled the benefits of shaming them with my mother's death, but I was not interested in this becoming a real conversation. I'm underwhelmed, guys. I went to an arts college, so I've seen the thing before where boys act like jerks because they think it makes them less gay. Side note, I know it's hot in here, but I really don't think it's healthy for a human being to produce that smell. So Harry, the shorter, bulkier one, is someone who has this very rank and intrusive body odor that he produces. The smell of Harry's armpits was bestial, I would call it, if I didn't know what satisfaction he would take in it. If you sat too close to him, or if he put his arm around you, it was often the case if you were female and you had more than half a drink. Harry lifted an arm and inhaled deeply as if into a bouquet of flowers. You're right, this isn't an unhealthy level of virility, but I have smelling salts in case you pass out. If I pass out of anything, it's going to be boredom, but you probably get that from all the girls. What happened to your ear? He has a cauliflower ear. Bar fight, said Harry. Real people don't get into bar fights. They do when it's a question of dignity. How many times a day do you ask that to Terry Gross inside your head? Well, I don't even get around to it, honestly. I'm too busy waving smelling salts under her nose. Damn these pythons, Terry! Why'd I have to come in here on a full pump? He flexed his arms in that way that heavily muscular men are looking for an excuse to do even under the auspices of joking. So what do you and Terry talk about after your first collection of Connecticut divorce fiction, said Jason. I poured my drink down the front of his shirt and left them to find another girl whose pigtails they could pull. But as I was walking out of the room, I bumped into the evening's host, a portly, soft-spoken, popular Texas historian. The property was a university-sponsored writer's residency, and this man was the current occupant. My inner Lisa Simpson could not waste an opportunity to suck up. So soon afterward, the three of us were listening to him discuss the biography he was working on of a famed Texas Ranger, John Coffee Hayes. It was news to me there was such a thing as a non-athlete famed Texas Ranger. But Harry was obviously excited for the opportunity to speak to a real author whose interests he didn't consider hopelessly effeminate. Also, apparently Hayes, one of the state's undisputed tough guys, was short, so Harry's very small in height, and he makes up for that in other ways. Harry demanded of the historian what guns he'd brought. The man said the residency had a strict no-gun policy. Harry scoffed, bureaucrats, then insisted the man level with him. To Harry, who had once proudly proclaimed that whenever someone began a conversation about the novel, he started thinking about guns, a person surrounded by this much undisturbed wilderness with no armory was unthinkable. The historian shrugged and adjusted his glasses uncomfortably. Cocksucker, said Harry. I knew I should have brought my crossbow. I thought about it, but I didn't. God damn it. Anytime you think you should bring your crossbow, but you leave it at home, you end up needing it. The historian agreed in polite bafflement. You can borrow mine if you want, said Harry. I could drop it off, and my chainsaw. Think about how much better that view would be if you cleared some of that cocksucking cedar. I fulfilled the obligation of my gender by gently steering the conversation into territory more congenial to our host, who did not suffer confusion as to the difference between his He-Man subject matter and himself. I asked if his family missed him, it being such an inconvenient drive to the city. "They'd probably be happier if I were in Fort Stockton," he said with a chuckle. Harry looked at me with disdain. He had been discussing matters of masculine interest, and I had turned them to the domestic. I did not disagree with him. As much as the He-Man act was like nails on a chalkboard for me, it made me feel small and womanly that it made things more safe. But to annoy him even more, I made my voice readier and upturned and drew out the syllables as I asked the historian more questions about his wife's interior design firm and his daughter's engagement, and other things that the only person who could have cared less about than I did was Harry. He tolerated this sullenly, eyes darting around the room in boredom, when uncontainable, childlike exuberance overtook his face. "Holy shit, you know what that is?" he said. He sprung to the mantel and picked up an object, a rusty old ranching tool that looked like a large nutcracker. "This is called a Burdizzo tool. You put it around the scrotum and jaws clamp down on the blood vessels," he said. "Kills the balls." Harry advanced on Jason, jabbing the tool at his crotch and working the jaws. Come here, boy," said Harry. Our host chuckled and shook his head in avuncular approval few men can resist of boys being boys. "What a character," he said to me. And once again, I coursed with resentment and envy at a man like Harry's continual ability to get away with being himself.
Delightful. Very fun to hear you read from the perspective of a woman.
I know. I mean, if your eyes were closed, you couldn't tell the difference.
Couldn't tell a difference. Let's start there. By the way, round of applause. Such a great. I don't know if you guys have read it yet. It's really brilliant. I should tell you that the night I read this in one afternoon / early evening, and that night I had a dream that Hillary Clinton died.
And it is much to my regret that it cannot be a blurb on the book.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know what psychological connection lies therein, but this is a real story. So, but let's start with a couple things. So you're writing from the perspective of a woman.
That is true.
You are genetically a man. So tell me what compelled that decision.
Well, first, don't put me in a box.
Okay, you're right. So sorry, Brian.
Second, it is from the perspective of a woman. There was a particular kind of relationship that I wanted the book to be about, and
fuck buddy, friends with benefits, Tinder date, mom. I don't know what
intimate romantic relationship.
Oh God, so much boring. Okay, fine.
And because of some things that happen in the book, I realized that you couldn't really tell it from the masculine perspective, because the masculine perspective would basically just fall under the category of like, oh, this bitch cray cray.
And we BB.
And like, there's nothing that interesting or insightful about that. And I also realized that it was probably not feasible to just say objectively in like close third person a reportage of what was happening, because I mean this character, and so I guess another thing I should clarify in response to that question is that like to me what was less of a decisive factor than this character's biological sex was who this specific person was. Mm-hmm. And I mean, she's an addict. When she's telling this story, she's in recovery. But when these things are actually happening, she's someone who is deeply charismatic, deeply manipulative, and deeply destructive. Mm-hmm. And so
I'll get it.
If you're thank you. And so I was afraid that if you just reported the shit that she was doing at face value, that it would make it difficult to identify with her. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you were putting it in her voice, when she's so used to going on charm offensive with any given audience, that it would make some of the darker things she does ultimately something that the audience could go with more.
So the desire to be authentic to her voice was less scary, more important and less scary than the undertaking of writing an entire novel from the perspective of a vagina.
It's actually, I should have clarified that she's a giant anthropomorphized vagina.
Oh, is that not obvious?
Yeah, I mean, that's what writing from a female perspective is.
We're just distilled down to one bodily function.
It was more like, I was afraid of readers judging this character. Because like she does do some dark, fucked up things, and because like the world is still unfair, there's generally more leeway for like a dude like anti-hero, like he's really interesting, like isn't his damage compelling?
Well, that's every man that everybody's tried to date in Los Angeles too. And in New York too. There were like 3 chuckles, but I know you ladies know what I'm talking about. Anyway,
basically you're saying like lock it down in high school like they do in flyover states.
Yeah, or maybe Pittsburgh, by the way, where you're from.
Well, now Pittsburgh has tech money.
Oh, I didn't know that. Really?
Yeah.
Is that real?
They have a whole entire fleet of self-driving cars.
Yeah, but what's a fleet? Like 2 cars?
300.
Wow, okay, Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Real shitty roads, too. I mean, like, that's not quite starting them out on Fury Road, but, I mean, like... It's definitely not starting it out here, where it's like, oh, there's a slight grade and like a mild drizzle. And you're like, holy fuck, how do I drive here?
Everything changes and there's a slight drizzle. You, by the way, do set the book in Austin, Texas.
Yes.
Which is where you went to graduate school. So let's talk a little bit about the inspiration there. I'm from Texas myself, so it's kind of irrelevant, but I just brought that up anyway.
Well, there's a difference between like Houston, Texas, where you're from, which is actual Texas, and the People's Republic of Austin. Which is, I mean, like, more liberal than Los Feliz.
That's very true, yes.
Yeah, I felt like it had to be set in Austin. Not simply because I literally went to school there, but because the quality of life there is really high. The cost of living relative to major coastal cities is fairly low. And it also attracts a lot of highly ambitious people spend periods of their life there. And so for me, it needed to be a place where there wasn't much struggle in terms of the day-to-day existence. Like these characters are essentially in an incubator where they have a lot of time on their hands and they have sufficient means.
It's not like Rent circa 1996 where it's just like high rent and AIDS.
Right, like these people, like as graduate students, can afford 1-1s.
1 bedroom, 1 bathroom.
And so, like, the idea of that environment, like, being a bit of a womb, where you have these people, it's like they have all these ideas of, like, who they are and what they're going to do in the world and what they represent, and there's not a lot of struggle in their day-to-day life. And so...
was that authentic to your experience as a grad student at UT?
It was specific to people who were at that particular program because everyone there got pretty good funding and had a lot of free time. And so because like there was none of the hustle and the conventional struggle and like let's say that like something like girls is traumatizing, is that like if the world is not giving you this force of opposition in this way, it's like you'll definitely fucking create it. If you have 5 minutes of free time, it's like...
I love that. I want to hear from you later, for sure. Wait, go back to the notion of free time being too much, or too little, or the right amount for creativity.
I mean, I don't know that anyone has totally reconciled this. I mean, I have heard it said by smart people that freedom is the enemy of happiness. And, like for this particular character, it's like right before she was in this program, she was like working as an editorial assistant as what is not named, but is like referred, it's The Atlantic. Like it's that kind of magazine. But like, it's a shitty job. You're not making much. You're in a city where it's like, you either have roommates, you're like, fuck it, I'm going to move in with my boyfriend or girlfriend because that's going to help with rent. Like going out and buying a can of tuna is a pain in the ass. It's like, it's cool you work for like, something like the Atlantic, but it's like you're making, 24 to 36 grand a year.
Right, and living in New York.
Right.
How many people here have lived in New York, by the way? I'm just curious. We have. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, like, there was like 6 seasons of Girls that did dramatize this lifestyle.
Can tuna lifestyle.
Where it's like, the struggle is your relationship to the world. And, the context that I wanted to dramatize in this was the way that creative, intelligent, and honestly, basically well-meaning people will just sabotage the fuck out of themselves and each other if you simply leave them alone to do it.
Which is what happens here romantically, not so much career-wise, though. I think that there are two different distinctions here. In many ways, this book, I don't know how many of you guys have read it yet. You'll love it. Again, maybe you'll have nightmares about Hillary Clinton. But the crux of it,
you're guaranteed to.
The crux of it, I believe, is it's ultimately it's about romance more so even than this protagonist's creative or career pursuits. But maybe talk a little bit about that, how you struck that balance and how you see those two factors bleeding into this character's life.
Yeah, I would say that's true. I mean, like, in the end, I wanted it to be a love story, and I mean, like, there's like a cursory amount of like artists talking about art, which is something that like I find less offensive than some other people do. I mean, like, everyone's doing it in Woody Allen movies, and they're doing it because like he's just imitating like French filmmakers who are super fancy. And I also don't have that kind of self-loathing that I'm like, oh, myself and the people who have tried to pursue the same kind of path like that I have pursued, there's something that's like inherently invalid about representing what they talk about in a way that's accurate. That being said, it wasn't the thing I wanted to overtake the narrative. I mean, like, it is something about how because you don't really get a sense of this from what I just read, but it's mainly about her relationship with the slightly quieter asshole character named Jason.
The jeans and boots guy.
Yeah. There was the way...
Are you Jason?
Everyone's
there was a hesitation. That makes me excited.
No, everyone's a conflation.
No, are you, though? Come on.
In certain ways.
He is. He totally is.
It's in some ways. I mean, there were ways that like I tried to consciously make that character very different from me. Like, that character is actually native Texan. Because like I am
not to chuckle at that. It's just it's like,
yeah. Well, you're a native Texan, so you know. I do. So like that's certainly it's like part me, part you.
Yes. It's very fair.
I think anyone could recognize that.
Okay, good. But you were kind of Jason, so readers
in some ways. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Well, let's get into a couple things. Okay, so first of all, two of the themes in this book that we sort of touched on, but I want to get in depth into: alcohol and infidelity. Let's start with alcohol because this is written as an AA letter. So I want to know your relationship with alcohol. Please note we just had happy hour for the last 60 minutes because an hour is 60 minutes, and we both drank a little bit. So
yeah, we did. That's accurate.
So not putting you on the spot, but I mean, I'm always curious as the idea of people's relationship with substances, especially when they're writing.
Well, so all right. One thing that if you go to a program like that, which I did, and then you continue to live a life in the arts, is you develop a very sophisticated taxonomy when it comes to people's relationship with alcohol, because I would say there's a difference between being a drinker and being an alcoholic, and I would say that the signature difference there is that if you're an alcoholic, you're just feeding your demon. That's like it's no different than filling up your gas tank, and so this character. The main character ends up doing some very emotionally destructive things that they're not necessarily fueled by alcohol, but it's hard to remove alcohol from the process of her doing these things. And then ultimately, when she goes to AA, because she's someone who's very artistically ambitious, she has to do the thing that, you know, a lot of artistically brilliant people are incapable of doing, which is separating the mythology of her damage from her light.
Oh, that's poetic.
Because you see all these people who are brilliant and just bright spirits, but also they are using whatever their addiction is to feed the worst part of themselves, and they're unwilling to decouple those things. It's like they're unwilling to accept that, oh, being fucked up in this way is not what's giving you your edge. That, like,
well, I can speak from the perspective of somebody in comedy. I think a lot of comedians, a lot of creators who do jokes for a living, whether it's comedy, whether it's stand-up or whether it's hosting or whatever it may be, feel that without their substances, they just wouldn't be funny. They wouldn't be who they are. So
I'd never heard that people in the comedy world had emotional damage.
It's a real shocker. But I wonder in the case of our protagonist here, she is actually in some ways fueled, but positively, or at least feels like creatively she gets what she needs from alcohol. Because at some point, I feel like, again, that the story goes back to the narrative of the relationships that she's having romantically and less about what she's creating. I mean, there are a couple of elements of creation that come into it and what she's working on writing-wise. And, of course, the end of it, which you guys will read, leads into something that's her own creation. But I guess I wonder both about her and then also from your perspective if alcohol can actually be a positive thing, or if substances can actually be a positive thing in creation.
I mean, I think if it's not something that is actively damaging your life, your relationships, like alcohol is fucking awesome. We can probably, for the most part, agree on that.
This talk brought to you by alcohol.
I'm also like twice the body weight of this character, so I have a different perspective on it.
Right. Well, that's why I want to know your fucking perspective. Tell me, did you drink while you were writing this? Did you just take from elements of you having been drinking a lot in your youth? Or I want to know your perspective. We're dying to know. I talk to everybody.
I don't think any grown adult drinks while they're writing. I don't think that exists.
Really? Anybody here create while you write or while you drink? Because I do sometimes perform while I'm drinking. I don't know if anybody else does. Thank you so much for that.
Like, you can drink while you're pregnant, if that makes sense. But when during the gestation.
No, it doesn't. What?
During the gestation phase, and
the research phase. I see.
When it's just like when it's like the thing is just like Athena and it exists in your brain.
Okay.
And like you can get fucking plastered during that. You're like, oh, it's fucking exciting. And I mean, like booze does like break down certain barriers. So it's not necessary, but it's not counterproductive per se if you're in the I feel like there's a lot of people who work in the entertainment industry here tonight, so it's like when you're breaking stories, sure, get fucking as drunk as you want, that's fine. But when you're actually sitting down and writing it, I mean, like,
don't be a dick,
right?
Get your work done.
It's like I would say writing is like driving in the sense, like if you say it's like no, I'm a better driver when I've had a few. It's like it's incredibly unlikely that's true.
Sure. Okay. Now the other topic I wanted to bring up was the notion of infidelity, which is a huge theme in the book, and specifically the difference between female infidelity and male infidelity, which you make a distinction about.
The character makes a distinction about.
The character
separate author from voice.
Okay, so there is a distinction made between male infidelity and female infidelity, which I think there is probably some truth to that. But let's start by hearing your perspective on why and wherein there lies a distinction.
So without getting into specific plot points, not even like this book has much of a plot. I mean, really.
People be fucking. That's kind of the plot.
Exactly. But female infidelity is a thing that happens in the book. It's a very important character hinge point in the book. And that also is why it is from this woman's perspective. I'm speaking anecdotally because I can only speak anecdotally. It was definitely something I was deeply curious to understand, because, and this is something where it's like, for like people listening, there's not a universe here where I'm making a unilateral statement about any kind of human being. I'm simply talking about what I have experienced and observed in the world. And what my personal history had exposed me to was that the phenomenology of male infidelity and the phenomenology of female infidelity.
I'm sorry, what?
Like
phenomenology?
Phenomenology.
I should know that word. I swear that I'm a person in the world, but I don't know what it means.
Like dudes cheating and chicks cheating doesn't tend to be the same thing.
But what is phenomenology? Phenomenon, the phenomenon of women cheating versus men cheating? Am I the biggest dummy that I just asked that question? I'm so sorry, but I have to ask it.
I'm probably the biggest douchebag that I said that instead of phenomenon.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, awesome. So we're in similar... Okay, so the phenomenon of women...
The thing that happens and, like, the reason why it happens.
Okay, great. Awesome.
That... As someone who had seen this particular thing from a couple of different angles... in the same way that, like, female sexual aggression tends to manifest in different ways than male sexual aggression, that women, in my experience, tend to cheat in different ways for different reasons.
Okay, that's fair. But, like, let's get into why. Like,
so
because you're interested in this.
What'll be easiest is, which I might have you read instead of me reading again, the thing where the character talks about it.
Yes.
Because, like, the character's explanation, because one of the things you're supposed to do when you're in AA is that, like, it's actually whether or not you're an alcoholic, it's a very impressive spiritual technology. And one of the things you're supposed to do is, quote, unquote.
Here we go.
You're supposed to take a fearless moral inventory where you really take accountability for your actions with no prevarications or denials or excuses. And so this is an example of her attempting that.
Okay. Looking at the person I was then, at the meteoric inanity of my own behavior, here's what I have to say about it. Men will have you believe they have the market cornered on compartmentalization, but that is not the truth. Brian Mcgreevy, 2017.
Oh, keep going.
I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry. There's a whole thing with a house.
Oh, yeah, okay, there's a house thing. Okay, here we go. Say that my brain at the time was a house with many rooms, and that I found myself in the room with the truth in it. But what I wanted was in the next room. I went to the next room. I possessed the liar's greatest power, which was to believe her own lies. It is a feast of crows to admit this, confirming Harry's cosmology. But now I don't tell lies anymore, just as I don't drink, as relentless as both make facing the day. Brian Mcgreevy, 2017.
And so where that analogy of the house came from was I talked to the person who most directly inspired this character several
What's her
years.
name? Is she on Facebook? Are you guys Facebook friends? Do you follow her on Instagram?
I fucking know basically everyone in this room,
Yeah.
So it's not like it would take
here?
a lot of... No, she's not.
Is she in New York?
She's in New York.
Is she Austin? Oh, she's in New York. Okay, great.
She's in New York.
It's gonna take me. I'm a woman. It's gonna take me 3 seconds to find her.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not gonna take. Her fucking book is probably in this book.
Oh, her book. Okay. Dory Shafrir.
You caught me.
Okay, so somebody with whom you had a relationship with. That's one of these intimate, romantic, whatever, blah 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 things, right?
And I was...
She just glossed right over that.
Asking her, yes, I've had premarital sex. Fine, Grace, I'll admit it.
This is yes, thank you.
But I asked her that because I'd seen women cheating in different permeations, and I'm sorry I keep caveating this in this way, but, like, in my experience, when dudes cheat, it's like, I shouldn't be doing this. like when he's flirting with the girl, oh, I shouldn't be here when he's in the hotel room or whatever. It's like, oh, I shouldn't have done that when he like just fucking blew his wad on her ass or whatever.
On her ass, wow. We just learned more from the last 6 words that came out of your mouth than the entire hour that we've been here. Has it been an hour?
But what I'm saying is that, like, there tends to be no cognitive dissonance about what he's doing. It's like, he's like, I'm doing something that morally I cannot actually justify, but I'm doing it anyway because I want to. And
I mean, it sounds like my relationship with chocolate sundaes. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't really know how it's that different. But okay, but continue.
Right,
You're
exactly.
the author.
That is exactly what his relationship with the female body is. Whereas I found that women that I knew, and not just people that, like, you know, I should say in full disclosure, a big part of what drove the decision to write this book and write the book from this voice was like many, many years ago when I was like very publicly betrayed by someone that I was not expecting it from. And then after the emotional fallout from that, it was like, I really wanted to understand it. And that was why I would ask these questions. And
of the person who betrayed you.
And not just her.
Okay.
Like, I would also, like, ask women I knew who were, like, cheating on their, spouses or whatever, like, in real time. We don't have to get into how I was, like, actually getting into that R&D. That, like...
Tinder? I don't know.
Tinder would be real shitty for cheating. I mean, unless it would be like the modern version of the Pina Coladas song, where it's like you match with the person you're cheating on.
I often think about that song and how shitty it is that this dude was just going online to be like, fuck my wife, I'm going to fuck some other bitch, and do you like margaritas? And then anyway, or it's Pina Coladas. I think it might be margaritas too. Anyway, continue. You have a story to tell.
And getting caught in the rain.
There's rain involved too.
Yeah.
So okay, well...
But so I found that women that I knew often had a narrative why what they were doing was not morally wrong. Like, whether the guy had it coming, like somehow, like he had engineered this, or
the relationship was doomed.
Or like the goalpost of what constitutes infidelity would move a lot in the same way that, like, if you're like a teenage Catholic virgin, like,
I was for many
like
years.
taking it in any orifice with the vagina is like, okay,
no, I
my
didn't
God.
do that. Sorry to clarify, I did not do that.
But like, no, like the way it's setting the rules. It's saying, it's like, okay, well, a good person does not do this. I am a good person, ergo I did not do this.
Well, as with the men, it's, oh yeah, bad people do this, but I'm doing it anyway, so whatever.
Or
I'm not even qualifying it with good versus bad.
Right.
Okay.
Like, I think, like, from, again, my anecdotal understanding of dudes who do it, like, I don't even think they think they're bad people necessarily. They think it's like, oh, I might be like a basically good person. It's like, I want to fuck that girl. I shouldn't have done that. I ostensibly shouldn't have done that, but I did it. And, like, moving on, what's for breakfast?
And you think, and women have... Well, I don't know that you're saying this, but let me ask this. Do you think that women have a harder time moving on from it once the deed is done? Because I actually think that that's a bit unclear from the perspective of our protagonist. In some instances, she toils over infidelity, and then in another instance, towards the very end, we don't even see her pondering it until it's revealed to somebody else that it's happened.
Well, in that case, it's because she's tap dancing around it. Like, she's not really satisfying the objective of the enterprise, which is to be totally honest. Like, she's still prevaricating about it years and years later. I mean, like I say, I cannot say unilaterally anything about women because, like, I'm dude. The fact I could even understand like this temperament that well, like took several years of my life to wrap my brain around.
And it is a very I think it's beautifully written. I am a woman card carrying, and I don't find any offense to it. But I do want.
Did y'all go on strike? I mean, what happened?
Did
last
women
night?
go on strike? Yeah. Yes, we did. It was called the Women's March, and I think no, I think it's a big undertaking that I think a lot of male writers might find too problematic to even get into, the idea of writing from a female perspective. So I like that you did it. Do you see yourself doing it again? Are there other women in that brain of yours that you're just like, yeah?
It's just dictated by character. And I mean, I would say if you're a writer and you fundamentally are incapable of having empathy and curiosity about someone who's unlike you, I'm not 1,000% sure what you're doing is not masturbation. Like, to me, the entire enterprise of fiction writing, like, there's a reason it's not a fucking diary.
Do you have a diary?
Oh, I have Twitter.
Fair. Okay.
I also, as some people in this room know, I text quite a lot.
Raise your hand if you know that. I mean,
an interactive diary.
Okay, a couple of other things that I want to talk about. So, let's talk about the setting of well, we've talked a little bit about the setting of Austin in particular. Do you miss it? Do you love it? Do you want to write more about it? Or is this a story that feels like you kind of tapped out? Because I feel like sometimes you associate stories with geography, and this might be it for you in Austin. I don't know.
I don't miss it. I do love it. I don't feel compelled by it. Anymore, no. It's also changing so much that, I mean, like, Austin now is so dramatically different than it was. I mean, the shift started happening around 2010. And that's
shift.
So, as Los Angeles grew in population by as many people in the last year as Austin did, and Los Angeles is 20 times the size of Austin. So Austin is radically shifting in character as an urban center in a way that basically nowhere else in America is. I mean, you know, if you go there now, stuff that used to be like in the fucking boondocks is now completely surrounded by development and condos. There's a lot more tech money there now. There's a lot more like millennials with ambiguous job descriptions.
So it's like Los Feliz, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
You live here.
I live here.
Do you love it? Not in this bookstore. Oh, sorry, that just got
I
so
love
loud.
this bookstore. I'm willing to say I love this bookstore.
Okay, let me. There's a quote of yours that I love that I want to get into. So we've talked about alcohol, we've talked about infidelity, and we're going to talk about something else. Jealousy. Okay, so there's just a quote, which is, "The biography of an artist is of interest only to an artist judging herself in comparison," which struck me as like, ooh, bitch, you need to underline that because that hits you straight up. So my question is, that's clearly about jealousy. Now let's talk about. I mean, there's a number of questions that I have really about that. Do you feel like, let's start with our protagonist and then your investment in?
Well, yeah, where that comes from is like if you have a given field and it's a field that's like not like, you know, like if it's something like modeling, there's definitely a timestamp. But there's other professions, such as being a writer, where, I mean, the wheel fucking turns so many times and over so many decades, you know. So, like, basically what that means is that, like, maybe some people in this room, because this is an unusually literate audience, knows that, like, Zadie Smith sold her first book when she was, like, 21. And Alice Munro sold her first book when she was 40. But to people who are not paying attention to that kind of thing, it's like they don't give a fuck.
Right.
It's like this, like, oh, Zadie Smith, like she has a book, like you know, so she has a career, like Alice Munro. It's like we like her, you know. It's like same with directors. It's like, you know, you don't care when people did what. You don't care as a consumer or even like as a friend who works in a different field,
Unless you were in that field yourself.
Right. Like, you know, like Leonard Cohen he didn't even start seriously pursuing music until he was in his early 30s.
I mean, Grace Parra did not do a Skylight Books appearance until she was like 22, so worked out, and things worked out real great for her.
But then when you have people who are in the same field, they get incredibly competitive. And I mean, when I was in school, there was a professor who told a story. It's kind of a fucking amazing story, although it's like quite terrible. But this very successful literary author, so like obviously he was also like, you know, like a college professor, because he couldn't make a living wage. And what he said to his class was, and this is like a class of like impressionable, you know, 19-year-olds. He said about, you know, one of his friends who was like also an accomplished literary author, "My heart leaps like a fawn when my friends fail."
Oh my god, that's incredible. That's really funny. So okay, that's very telling too. Also, why a fawn? I think of all, I guess fawns are just very leap worthy.
It definitely makes it funnier.
It does.
Like that specific image. Like there's this thing you see in a lot of people, and this isn't even just creative people, it's just people like in something really specific that they look at the world as if it's a zero-sum game instead of a non-zero-sum game. So they think that it's like it's a pie.
Oh, I love pie. Continue.
And someone else having a big slice of pie means less pie for them. And that's not how it works.
You're saying there's multiple pies out there.
There's so many pies.
And pies of different tastes, too.
I mean, you know, like, mathematically we know that pi is infinite.
Oh, God, look at you, and he's a mathematician, too. Okay, great.
So great at math.
So great at math.
Just ask me to add anything.
Why is that not in the book anywhere? Okay, so I think you're clarifying that. Well, I guess you're. I like that anecdote because it seems like this is from a male professor's perspective. So male envy, in many ways, is not distinct from female envy. You know, we're talking about infidelity being very different, but I guess you're saying that they're pretty. That at least with jealousy.
Even I'm not fucking crazy enough to write a book about female jealousy. Like I'm not touching that one. Infidelity, I felt somewhat qualified to have an opinion about.
Do you feel relieved of your questions about infidelity, having written this book?
Yeah. No, I do. Like there was something that was very emotionally traumatic at the time.
Right.
That I wanted to understand. And then by the end of this process, and I mean, you know, the things this character says and feels about the world, like this was not speculation on my part,
right?
You know, and like I'm not saying that she has the badge where it's like she's like speaking for all women in this way, but she is, I think, emblematic of a certain type of very charismatic, very self-destructive young woman who might have this MO.
Do you ever envision writing from the perspective of the person that she cheated on?
Yeah, I tried that. It's just like, who gives a shit?
Really?
Yeah, it's like fucking grow a sack. Get over it.
No, though. I mean, yes, but it's hard to do that. I mean, as women, I don't know. I feel like
a fucking country song. You can't write a novel about it. Like it's like seriously, like, dude, fucking man up.
No, I feel like it's very hard to just turn that off. If you've experienced heartbreak, I don't know if you guys have. I have. You can't just turn it off. You can't. I mean, I think it's a lot to ask for myself, and I imagine other women or men too. Maybe from a male perspective.
I also wrote this many years after it happened.
Right. So you'd had a healing process.
And so, like, years and years later, I did not think that, like, my end was that interesting.
You're still in touch with this person?
She's sort of pissed at me now.
Does she know that The Lights is about her?
She does, but she also knows, like, I was interviewing her for it, because, like, I wanted to do due diligence to make sure that my perspective on certain things was not masculine projection.
Do you feel like there are any major characters out there in the world that we all know, major figures that we know, who are reflections of your protagonist?
Yes.
Like who?
Christ, I'm not going there.
Really? They can be like, I don't know, politicians or something.
Politicians?
I don't know, just people that we all know. Like, maybe you see Elizabeth Warren, and you're like, oh, fucking Elizabeth Warren is just like my lady here.
Like, I've had people that I will not name both say it's like, holy shit, I used to be that girl.
Oh, okay.
Because like, also, when this shit's happening, like, this person is 26.
Right.
So it's like, it would be a very different pathology, if she was 40.
Speaking of age, you are about to turn 34, by the way. Almost happy birthday to Brian Mcgreevy.
Yeah.
Do you feel... this is the politest clap for something that no one really gives a fuck about. Did you feel... And you, I'm sure, too. Do you feel like there's a difference between a 26-year-old woman and a 34-year-old man? Do you feel like there's...
Wait, there is? I would say maturity-wise, not really.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Do you feel like there's actually some similarity in who you are now and who... compared to the person that you... or the character that you sort of are in the novel, who's much younger, who's a man in his early 20s.
Yes.
What I'm saying is you're old as fuck. How do you feel about that?
I feel fine with it.
But maturity-wise...
Like, I find new fucking gray hairs in my beard every day. I'm like, I'm good with this. I earned it.
Grays are good. Don't worry. Just sit in that for another 5 minutes.
I would say that, like, it's probably not a fucking newsflash that women do tend to mature more quickly, that there's certain things about life that are, like, I would say, yes, there are existential realities I'm more aware of now that I'm in my 30s about this character who was in her mid-20s, that when I was in my 20s did not land for me the same way.
Mm-hmm. So you would be able to note a woman like this, and would you be attracted to the same kind of woman now?
Oh my god, absolutely. Just like a fucking heat-seeking missile.
So you've exhumed all your fears, but you've learned nothing in the process.
Correct.
Okay, well, we're going to get into some Q&A from the audience at some point soon. But any last words, last thoughts, last perspectives between us up here?
No.
Okay, cool. Me neither. All right, Q&A, shall we? Guys, I want to know your questions. I want to know your thoughts. He's going to give answers. Anybody? I see some smart-looking people. Yeah. Hi.
I had some questions about actually the labor of the book. Like, what is your ritual and how many hours you write? I ask this because you are very prolific as a writer, so I'm only curious about this.
I'm prolific because I've learned how to systematize my laziness. And I mean that, like, absolutely. It's like I don't write more than 2 hours a day, and 2 hours is lucky. But because I know that about myself, I write every day. As far as, like, when I'm writing a book or not, that is sort of contingent on other factors in my life because it's not my day job. And my day job, like, uses more or less the same skill set.
Writing for TV.
Yes.
Just in case, just I mean, I just want to clarify. Which we should get into.
For the people who just walked in and didn't know that about me.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, like, for instance, like, if someone said to me, it's like, oh, how long does this book take to write? I'm like, I don't know. Because I don't. Because, like, it's sort of like the difference between, like, having, like, an only child and having, like, a bunch of kids. And, like, for the parents now, it's like, some of them are, like, more of a pain in the ass. Or, like, they need something, or, like, blah, blah, blah. It's like, if you're juggling creative projects, each one, in theory, is a massive investment of creative energy and concentration. And I don't live a life where there can necessarily be one that's the thing I'm exclusively focusing on at a given time. But I am unusually good at multitasking.
We get it. All right. What else? That's a good question. Actually, let's talk a little bit about the sun right now.
I can talk to my mom and Tinder.
Very impressive. Do you really do that?
Oh, I don't care about what their fucking bullshit our neighbors are up to.
How's Tinder going for you these days? Is that too on the spot? You love it.
I do love it.
How is it?
Yeah, it's great. It's one of the great ongoing social experiments that also benefits my dick.
That delights me. Okay. Well, we should. I love that you brought up the Sun though on AMC right now. Congratulations, another huge achievement. Very exciting. You guys are. How long ago did you wrap the season?
In the fall.
In the fall. Okay, it's been a while. How are you excited about it being on TV now? Is it everything you dreamed of?
Nothing is everything you dreamed of.
Okay, well,
except
Chocolate
for
Sundae
this
is
panel.
pretty good. Hey.
Look, that we decided to make that show 4 years ago. The show's out in the world. Pierce Brosnan has an absolutely magnetic beard on the billboards. I mean,
Yes, he does. He truly does.
That's just like I just want to burrow into that, and that's like the trophy. It's like a hug.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Who's got some stuff for us? Yeah. Hello, sir.
Sir, I like it. Before I go, I'm the oldest person in the room. I've got to correct something that both of you, the panel, has said. And that is, when you're younger or 34, you think as you get older, you're going to feel different about everything. When you get to be 71 like me, you look backwards and no, you don't. You still feel exactly the same way, same kind of feelings. And even though your sexual desires drop from 95% of your thinking to, say, 85%. Learn as you go that if you talk to older people, they feel the same kind of emotions and feelings that they always did. And in fact, they look back and sometimes get more melancholy and morose about opportunities missed and things that they thought they knew, and then they come to fruition.
Is there a way to combat that moroseness or the feeling of having missed out?
Yeah, I think so. I think
Tinder.
I don't know anything about Tinder, but I do know a bit about creativity, and that's what keeps it going. I think. Every time I get good at something in my life, I move on to something else. I'm an entertainment lawyer now. I was a musician for 20 years, and now I'm here. And I enjoy
I would say this is the pinnacle of your career, if I may.
Well, it's really been enjoyable. Let me tell you, when I read this sentence here that says on page 18, he considered himself Faulknerian in his understanding of people's inner workings, but never came to a more nuanced evaluation of gender politics than women be shopping. It started with a Faulknerian reference and ended with a dialect of I bought the book.
Oh, I appreciate
The
it.
moral is you must. I love that. That is very sage wisdom. Thank you. Thank you for that. Touching.
You can call me sir.
Always, sir.
I absolutely. Everything you're saying sounds very plausible to me, because I remember when I was in my late adolescence and I just wanted more than anything to write a book. I mean, I just could not think of something that would be a better testament to the time I had spent on planet Earth than having a book with my name on it that I could flip through and smell. And what really terrified me when I was a teenager was fuck, I hope that I'm successful before I'm 30, because after I'm 30, I'm going to be too mature to enjoy it.
Little did you know that your immaturity would last for years and
I
years.
would say
past
that
30.
my 19-year-old self would look at me as you regressed. It's like that. It's like the evolutionary the hominids that become the Homo sapien, that there's sort of been a downward trajectory.
I do like the bringing up the quote about women be shopping, because we do be shopping online quite a bit. Does that come from a particular place or just an observation of femininity?
Well, that was the asshole character who looked at the world that way. I think women have lots of things they engage in aside from shopping.
Women be talking. Women be texting. And women be...
I mean, look, I text like a Japanese schoolgirl, so it's I'm one to talk.
Fair. I do the same. Any other questions, thoughts?
I noticed that the main character is Sicilian, and I was just wondering if you had thought at all about why there was a fair-skinned, blue-eyed woman on the cover of the book.
Oh, that was just because that's who we got. I mean, we had 2 days to get that shot. And it was being outsourced to New York. But that's a very good catch.
It's a very good catch, yeah.
I hadn't even thought about that. It's like, yeah, no, she should be brown-eyed and swarthier.
Which she is described as. I don't think she's described as brown-eyed, but she is described physically as I actually forget how she's described physically, but there's a couple instances of description.
She's described as being as from Sicilian peasant stock.
Peasant stock, that's correct, yes.
Say there are regions in Sicily and southern Crete where people are lighter skinned and blue-eyed like my mom.
I guess I was more concerned of just the normalization and just that everything we see is fair-skinned and blue-eyed.
You know,
No reason for it to be.
I wish I had more agency in that decision. I can get our designer on the phone. I'd yell at him, but I did approve it. So, no, that was just us not thinking hard enough. Mostly Grace.
It's mostly my fault. And I'm Mexican, so I should be looking out for myself. Really, my eye could be there. Anyway, that is interesting. I mean, you know, we don't need necessarily to bring up the physical description of the two men in the story they're both white males.
Yeah.
And that's authentic to the people that you were writing about versus a conscientious decision to make it like, hello, this is about white people.
Well, this book is about white people. That's not to say that program was not diverse. There was quite a bit of diversity in that program. But it's one of those things where it's like, you know, like there was a guy that I went to grad school with who like absolutely fucking a book should be written about this dude. I mean, like he was like a tiny black gay poet from Tennessee.
Same.
Yeah. Like absolutely fascinating character. But it was one of those things where it's like I didn't think I could responsibly take that on. You know what I mean? It's like I had understood from a very deeply intimate perspective, and not just the one girl, because it is a composite character. Like there's a point where it's like her career takes her back to New York, and she has experiences that are based on like, you know, like other people I've known intimately. And so, you know, like it felt like if I was going to like bring in like the black gay character, that it would have been a bit dishonorable to do it unless I was capable of going all in.
Right.
Which, black gay character is super funny, intentionally funny.
Right. In many works of art, that's what they're there for, just to be the funny ones.
But like, you know, because like the book's about three people. It's about the three people.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too. It's a small cast. I mean, there's a couple supporting characters. Well, you know, it does bring up though an interesting point that in many ways she doesn't really have a conversation that's not about or with men.
Yeah, with the exception the sequence that's about her mom.
Right.
The book pretty spectacularly fails the Bechdel test.
Yes, it does.
But, you know, it's a love story.
Right. Heterosexual love story.
It's a heterosexual love story, but, you know, that's because that's what I know. You know, like, to me, the kind of, the category that you are sexually attracted to and get into, like, deeply intimate romantic relationships with, it's like, they are deeply compelling to you. And at one point, so it's like, you know, Harry, who is, like, the bigger fucking shithead of the two characters, says to her, the main character, that what he loves about her is that she's the kind of quote-unquote feminist who has no close female friends. Right. And that was true of the person it was based on, that, like, she only ever wanted to be around the dudes. Even when, or, like, especially when it was intensely combative. That, like, she would rather be fighting with dudes than agreeing with women.
I know that amongst my circle of female friends, we note that it is a red flag if we meet a woman who has no other female friends, or if a male friend of mine is dating a woman and says, like, I don't really know her friends, she doesn't really have any female friends. It's a bit of a red flag for sure.
I mean, there's also a point where the Harry character says that misogyny is when men talk about women the way women talk about women. And I've certainly had the experience with very intelligent women who are just more comfortable with men. And I'm not comfortable speculating why that is the case. I'm sure, like, everyone here probably has thoughts on why that is. It's just more that was the particular psychology of this character.
Sufficient. Yes, hi.
Do you think that Lena's unsympathetic? And, like, putting aside the fact that she's based on what you like now, would you like her? Like, would you be friends?
I don't have amazing judgment when it comes to this stuff, so yes, I would. I mean, that goes back to the question of, like, why it's in her voice that, you know, it might be harder to sympathize with her if you're not getting things from her perspective exactly. But, like, that kind of personality, and I have seen multiple instances of this kind of personality, like it's a type. It's a type that you see in the world, that they tend to own the spotlight when they're in the room, because they just go on charm offensive, and, like, at some unconscious level, they're aware of how to ingratiate themselves maximally with their audience. You know, regarding, like, sympathetic or unsympathetic, those are terms that creatively don't interest me that much. I mean, like, for my day job, I have to hear them all the fucking time. And, like, to me, you know, interesting or not interesting, that is what I care about a lot more. I mean, I also think, like every person is sympathetic if you're, you know, looking at them without judgment. And I felt like it would be the easiest for readers to suspend their own judgment of this character.
To suspend or to decide on their own? I mean, are you asking readers to just completely...
No, I'm intentionally trying to manipulate them. I think I'm trying to make them like her more.
So you're not suspending our ability, or you're not suspending our interest in deciding whether or not she's sympathetic. You're steering us in the direction of determining sympathy.
Because, like, she's a deeply dishonest train wreck.
Yes.
And if you, like, just see, like, a chronology of the shit she does, I mean, like, without getting into, like, too much of the book, it's like she fucking drags this dude across the country as an emotional crush and then fucking breaks him. Basically, because through a combination of, like, boredom and contempt. Which is something that, like, you see that a lot. Like, there's a, you know, I'm sure, like, there's a number of people here who have been through some kind of, academic or artistic program that required moving. And so there's, like, the chapter in here called The Plight of the Plus One, because, like, if you come into that environment as someone's plus one, you're pretty lucky if you last a semester. And that's irrespective of gender. Like, if you come in as the plus one, like, you're kind of fucked. Like, it's sort of like if there's, like, a cast party and there's, like, a boyfriend there. It's like, oh yeah, you're not going to be at the rap party.
That's very fair. Any other questions? Yes, hi.
I think about psychology. When I hear about this, I just remember, like, I read an article about woman cheating and men cheating, and I think about, like, you talk about, like, woman who likes to talk only with men and other stuff, and I remember other book I read, like, about Amazon, Puella, like, forever young girl or something like this. And I have a question like, did you read some book, psychology book, which influenced, because I always like checking myself, like, oh, I think in this way about world, and I read psychology books about this, and oh, that's right, maybe did you check some psychology book about this?
That's very interesting, because it seems like a lot of this is anecdotal, but I guess...
I read a shitload of psychology books.
Yeah. Is there anything specific that triggered you? Or helped? Or hurt?
No. I mean, like, I also, like, go through the rotation where it's like I read Jezebel, like, I read The Cut, like, I read a lot of...
New York Magazine Sex Diaries?
I have not read that.
Really? You should probably read that. You guys, anybody here read that? Yeah, it's all fucking fake, I think, right? Doesn't it seem fake? I don't know. It's a lot of female infidelity. You should read it.
I do. Okay, so I read a lot of. I'm gonna sound like I'm mispronouncing her name, but I'm actually pronouncing her name correctly. I promise you, Camille Paglia. I would say that, like, as far as thinkers out there on this kind of stuff, that, like, there are times I'm like, okay, Mcgreevy, the fuck are you doing? It's like,
you refer to yourself in the third
like
person,
you're just like, I do refer to myself in the third person very, very regularly. I'm like, is it fucking moronic to say this thing about human beings? And then I'll just ask myself, it's like, what would Cammy do?
You're on a nickname basis. I like that.
And, like, one thing I like about Cammy, and I think we're gonna have to, like, wrap up in a second here. Like, one thing that I like about Cammy, and I think it's, like, a good note to close on, is that, one thing I wanted to do with this book, and, like, I guess with a lot of stuff that I work on, and why it's written from this female perspective, is that, like, I don't see it as being factioned. Like, ultimately I would say there's the core experience of being a person, and there are cosmetic differences, and there are important fucking cosmetic differences. Like, yeah, like, white guys have been douchebags for a very long time. Like, I'm with you on fighting that fight. But that looking at our emotional commonality and looking at everyone as quite damaged but also quite powerful, and understanding that there's room for people to make fairly large mistakes, and as long as there is some level of deliberate self-reflection where people are trying to improve the carbon footprint they're making on the world, which is not the same thing as avoiding being a fuck-up, that's something worth celebrating. Might be a stretch, but worth acknowledging.
Worth acknowledging, right? I like that. That's beautiful. Do we have time for one more? Or? Oh, okay. There was another...
I'm not going to top that.
You're not. He's not going to top that, guy. So let's end on a high note. Brian Mcgreevy, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much for coming. What a delightful evening.
You've been listening to the Skylight Books Author Reading Series. Don't forget that you can listen to this and all of our other great podcasts at skylightbooks.com. Thanks again for stopping by, and we hope to see you soon.